Hi, everyone. Welcome to the webinar. We'll plan to get started in just a few minutes. We've got people who are still logging in, so we want to make sure we give them time to get in and get settled, but you're in the right place, and we'll get started very shortly. Thanks. All right, everyone, let's plan to get going here. We're 2 after the hour. Thank you for being here this morning, or I suppose this afternoon if you're on the East Coast, for the webinar, Why Beautiful Websites Can Get Ugly Results. And before we jump in and get going too far, I want to do a little bit of introduction, a little bit of housekeeping as well. This is me. My name is Justin. I'm the Vice President of Marketing at Advice Media. My background and why I hope I'm qualified to speak with you today and share some insights is, patient communication and patient marketing has been my career. So working in marketing for different companies who, work with, with healthcare organizations across to handle patient journey, patient communication across the entire life cycle or patient journey, if you will. And that's everything from appointment-related communications, reminders, and recall types of messaging, and post-visit follow-up type of messaging, to the front end and patient acquisition and patient marketing, which is where we'll be spending our time today. So for me, it's been, I think, around 16 years now of being in this space. So I'm excited to share with you guys some things that I've learned, and some of these principles apply to me as a marketer, in more of a business-to-business sense as well. So hopefully, we're learning together, and I'm excited to share what I've learned. Before we get in too far, also want to do a few housekeeping things. So first, I don't have a slide for this, but just to tell you, we will plan to record the session today. And so if you have to jump out a little early, have to attend to something, totally understand. We'll make sure we get your recording as needed. Totally encourage you to ask any questions you have or chat any questions you have. And as time allows at the end, we'll try to address some of that and get into that. Or if it's something that's, a little more specific, a little more personalized, I can make sure we're following up with you for a little more in-depth touch on that after the session today. But to do that, you go to webinar now. You should be able to see two different places where you can send those questions and send that feedback. There's a questions tab right there toward the bottom, and also a chat one. They work largely the same. If you have any kind of comment or question you want to make, just add it there. And so we'll have that record. And even if we can't get to it, it's, again, we'll have that on record and can follow up with you. So there's that. Also, want to make sure, you know how to get the continuing education verification afterwards. So you guys may know this better than I do. We're a relatively new partner with PAHCOM and sharing here, but you'll log into your account at the URL on the screen here. And after the presentation, I'll be giving you a verification code. So I'll plan to share that at the end today and leave it up on the screen so you can jot that down, and can always reach out to me afterwards as well if you need any help doing this piece. So now we get into the bulk of the presentation. So today we're talking about why beautiful websites, sites that look great on the surface, can have ugly results. And the content today really breaks down into 4 categories that we'll kind of dissect and review and share some best practices across. And first of those is planning for success. So we're going to be talking about thinking through goals and objectives for your practice's website, as well as the time and financial investment that you're undertaking to make that happen. The second we'll be talking through is the on-screen experience, and this is all about your patient's experience when they're on your website. What are they interacting with? What are they, seeing and sensing and feeling? The third is what I call under the hood, and that's just how I refer to those more technical components of a website that you or your potential patients don't necessarily see on a day-to-day basis. But if they're neglected or if they're treated as an afterthought, so to speak, they can absolutely have a negative impact on reaching those goals that you set for your website. And then the last will be beyond the website. And that may seem a little counterintuitive on the surface, but it's important for us to think of our website as a foundational component of a larger digital marketing strategy and ecosystem, if you will. So we'll spend a few minutes taking a look at some other digital marketing tactics that are tied at the hip with your website and can really influence its success in a positive way. So before we do that, I want to get into a poll question. I'm going to ask you guys to just respond when this launches here. It may take just a moment. And I want to know, how would you rate the effectiveness of your practice's website today? If you would just, take a moment and respond there. And I'd say if you don't have a website, then that, as far as I'm concerned, would be completely ineffective. Total gut feeling here. Just where are you at with this? And I'll share the results here shortly. Still got a few people voting. All right, I'll go ahead and close the poll and share the results here. So you can see some of the crossing is completely ineffective. Our website's not doing anything for us. Some somewhat effective, probably a lot of opportunities for improvement, areas for improvement, and then more on the upper end, which is saying, yeah, it's somewhat effective, but hopefully here today you kind of pick up some nuggets and see some things that you could be considering or thinking about a little differently to make that website get you even better results. So jumping back in, so we're going to talk about planning for success. The number one thing when we're talking about planning for success, and it sounds very basic, but it's absolutely worth asking yourself, what am I trying to achieve with my website? Is the intent to keep things, really basic and just have the website serve as a home that, proves to patients that you're, potential patients that you're a living, breathing practice? Or are you really trying to stand out and sell your practice? And, maybe you're in a highly competitive local environment. So you really want to showcase what it is that makes you special and what makes you different. If you're starting with more questions than answers here, take a deep breath. That's totally normal. You'll be glad you challenged yourself to understand what you hope to accomplish with your practice and your website and your broader online presence. If you've heard a patient say that they like your website, that's certainly a compliment, but it's worth exploring whether that matters. And that could be the reason they decided to work with you in the first place. A lot of people will say that a website that works is one that converts, turning a visitor into a new or returning patient. And I agree with that. A website that works is one that converts and is doing what you really need it to do. So, right out of the gate, one recommendation is always keep your goals in mind. Another is planning for success. You may find it, and it's worth evaluating whether your investment areas need some adjustment. And I know that that's something that sounds like something a financial advisor would say. But here we're referring to the marketing elements that help you maximize the potential of your website. A common misstep, and something I see time and again, is to spend so much on the site itself that you don't have the budget to add the components that make a beautiful website drive the results that you want. There's a stat from a group called Fundera that says that 92% of business owners believe that having a website, just having a website, is the most effective digital marketing strategy. And of course, I absolutely agree that the website is critical. I mean, it's why we're all here today. But where I would disagree is with the phrase digital marketing strategy. I would argue that having a website alone isn't a strategy at all. Essential, yes, but comprehensive, no. What you see on your screen here is a framework that we refer to as the pyramid of success in digital marketing. And the idea here is that the website is the foundation. It's the nucleus of everything. It's right there. It's that, fundamental bottom layer. And it's the nucleus of everything. And that's to say, pretty much anything you do in digital marketing is going to involve your website. You can have ad campaigns that share a phone number for potential patients to call, but their primary means of taking action is going to start by checking out your website. And then from there, they may decide to pick up the phone and call. Or if you're doing it right, they'll also have the option right there on your website to chat with a member of the team, or even fill out a form with some basic information to get a call from your team. All right, well, what about the other marketing layers above the website there that complement and help drive traffic to that website? Reputation management tools, social media management, making sure that local directory listings are cleaned up and consistent. We'll get into some of these a little later in the presentation, but right up front, I want you to start thinking about and asking yourself if you're prepared to balance and allocate your budget beyond the website design itself. All right, we also want to make sure we're thinking about the on-screen experience. And when you're investigating why your website might be underperforming today, or could, at least could do better, one of the first considerations is what that website experience is like for your mobile user, your mobile device user. Just a quick show of virtual hands here. How many of you in the session today signed up for it from your mobile phone? You don't have to actually show me your hand, but I know it happens. Think about your own personal web activity. How often is that happening from your phone? Just because it's so convenient to do things that way and get stuff done. We've got to make our mobile matter more when it comes to our websites. And I can back that up with some data too. So what you see on the right side of your screen is pretty interesting, I think. So mobile device usage for website browsing, it passed the 60% threshold for the first time last year. I think across 5 trillion visits, 61% of website browsing was happening from a mobile device. So in its simplest terms, 3 out of every 5 visitors to your website are doing it from their mobile device. Too often, what we see is websites are designed with desktop browsing as a priority, and while that's important, and while that desktop browsing still accounts for roughly a third of your traffic, it's mobile friendliness that just rules the day for today's consumer. And again, the stats pass the gut check for many of us. I mean, again, how often do you hear about a business from a friend, or advertising or some other source, and simply search for their website on your phone? Your potential patients, they're doing the same thing. The fact that you're in healthcare doesn't change that. Those same browsing and web behaviors that we've adopted in other parts of our lives, they still absolutely apply right here when we're researching or looking for a healthcare provider. Another point to talk through when we're thinking about the on-screen experience is conversion elements, and I'll explain what that means. For most practices, it's important to remember that, above all, and it's worth reiterating, the website should be converting visitors into patients and appointments. We think back to the goals section from a few minutes ago, where it's great for the site to be beautiful and to look good. And while that does matter, that's not the end goal here. For most of us, the real end goal is getting new patients and new procedures scheduled. And when we talk about conversion elements, there are three main ways in which you'll convert new visitors from your website. So ask yourself if you're making all of these options available. As individuals, we all have different preferences in how we might connect with a business. I'm a huge extrovert. So I love, always love talking directly with people. I'm happy to pick up the phone and call and get something scheduled. And I'm married to the polar opposite. My wife she'd rather die than have to pick up the phone and make a call. So your challenge as a practice and for your site is to provide options in terms of, how my family, how we'll connect with you. Those of us who like to talk and those who don't. So in order of importance and effectiveness, here, those main conversion mechanisms are these. First is phone calls. And this can be as simple as, when you think about it, in the context of your website, this can be as simple as making sure that your phone number it's on the screen at all times. So as users scroll through a page, that phone number should go with them. And offering a click to call conversion point, it gives you the opportunity to have an immediate phone conversation while a website visitor is actively browsing and has your services top of mind. The second is chat, and the same positive attributes of chat there in terms of capturing things in the moment. It's arguably less effective than the phone call, since that conversation takes place through a chat window rather than an over-the-phone discussion. But regardless, chat is extremely convenient for users and may even be preferred in many cases. Like I talked about with, myself and my wife. As consumers often make buying decisions outside of typical business hours, chat also keeps you, quote unquote, open all the time. And so offering both phone call and chat options is the best strategy for covering both conversion opportunities for immediate conversations. And just on top of that, there's, stats are showing that adding a live chat feature to your website, it typically increases conversion rates by about 20%. And then the last one on your screen here is forms. And if a visitor isn't able to discuss your services at the moment, they can't pick up the phone and call, they can't do a live chat, they should at least be able to submit their information and set themselves up to have a follow-up conversation with your team. All right, also thinking in terms of the on-screen experience, there's much more to your website's content than just stuffing words on a page. Google and other search engines, they reward unique and original content. And that content should include topics that are specific to your practice, including information about the services you offer and their benefits, your service providers and their experience and qualifications, your locations, and more. Anything that makes the website's content feel like it could only be about your business is a real plus in the eyes of search engines. Website content is something that can be an interesting challenge because you're really writing for two audiences when you think about it. You've got your visitors and your potential patients, your human audience, but you're also trying to please what I call the Google gods as well. So you're creating content for both humans and robots. And if writing pages of unique and custom content sounds like a beast or a bear of a project, that's because it can be. But however, having a sufficient amount of this unique content, it's a must. And there are resources available to help you out. And the search engines and your future patients will reward you for it. Something that, a question I like to pose, and a way you can think about, what types of content to create is kind of do this self-check and ask yourself, am I proactively anticipating and answering the questions that my potential patients will ask? Because And you think about that in terms of how you develop your content, because before, and here's why, before they ask you in person, they're going to go ask Google. They're going to go type that into a search engine. Provide those answers in the search engines, and you're more, where you're being ranked for that inquiry, and you're more likely to get website clicks and traffic from searchers who want to learn more. And why is that important? Well, when you get those people to your site, those are better quality searchers, and they're more likely to convert into a patient for you, because people who are searching that, obviously it's something that they're all over and they're looking for, and they tend to be more likely to convert into a patient. So something to ask yourself: are you upfront about anticipating and writing content that answers those questions, that the ones that you probably field all day, every day? So that content, it definitely has an on-screen experience impact, but when we're talking about writing for the robots, there's, again, what I call that under the hood impact. So let's just go ahead and dive all the way in on that concept here. Under the hood. All right. So again, now we're talking about those technical components, those things that, may not be as evident on the surface, but are really important in terms of helping your site get the results you want. And the first point here and thing to think through is that there's power in the platform. And we've talked about ways to think about planning for success, and we've talked about the on-screen experience for a potential patient and how you can make that more appealing. And now we're talking about the more technical components that underlie this experience. And another consideration is this website platform, and it's answering a question: is your site easily adjusted when changes are needed? If, for example, you need to adjust business hours due to an emergency, or maybe this rings true, maybe a pandemic, how easily can you make those changes to keep your website information accurate and up to date? Any lag in those, any inaccuracy in those, it just risks outdated information and a poor experience for both your potential and your current patients. Also, evaluate how well your website platform allows for different plugins or apps that improve your site's functionality. If you have a thriving social media presence, how easily can you incorporate an Instagram or Facebook or other feed into your website? Or what about appointment scheduling and those types of tools and plugins, chat tools like we talked about? These are these different kind of features. They can really improve a visitor's experience on your site. But again, under the hood, your website has to be ready, and you have to have a platform that can support those. All right, site health also has to be a priority. Remember, your website, it has a non-human audience, and while your site may be very readable for the average site visitor, Google crawlers have to be able to make sense of things as well. Evaluating your website's health and cleaning up any technical issues that come to the surface, that makes comprehension much easier for the crawlers and bots. And technical issues might include things such as site maps or a lack thereof, URL structures, bloated code in the site, images, really beefy images delaying page load times for certain pages on the site, and things like that. A beautiful content-rich site that speaks the language of all visitors. And remember, we're serving both humans and search engines here. A beautiful site that speaks the language for both of those audiences is much better positioned for success. All right, so now we get to our fourth main category, and we've talked about planning for success. We've talked about on-screen experience for the patients you're looking to attract, and we've also looked below the surface of the site as well. So now we want to look beyond the website itself. And if you'll remember, we looked at that pyramid framework where the website is the foundation, that bottom layer of everything we do in digital marketing, and then these other layers complement that. So first, what we're first looking at is are you attracting the right traffic? And that pyramid we looked at, the first layer up from there was local search. So we'll spend some time right here and we'll ask that question: are we attracting the right traffic? If you're seeing disappointing website results despite really high traffic, it's worth taking a closer look at those visitors. Are they truly potential customers for your practice? If you serve a geographically localized, patient base, can those visitors do business with you? In other words, are you generating the right traffic to your website? And if you're finding that that volume of this traffic is not optimal for converting and bringing new revenue through your doors, consider your accuracy and local directory listings. Are your name, address, and phone number, commonly known as your NAP information, that acronym, NAP, name, address, and phone number, are those details accurate across the board? Because that can have a major impact on local search traffic to your website. Does your content make it clear which local area you serve? That you may know that, and it's just kind of implied for you, but make it clear in the content, and that can help you also get the traffic you want. These local directories get tons of traffic. North of 150 million people access these things each month. And when the information across those directories is incomplete or inconsistent, it sends bad signals really on two levels. And again, this is a robots and humans kind of discussion. So one level is Google and the robots. That inconsistency across the directories, it makes Google and the other search engines doubt the legitimacy of your business and your website, and that's going to have a negative impact on where you rank in a potential patient's search. And then there's the patient themselves. If that info listed is in the listing is incorrect, it's a huge hit on trust. Just like the website being down or not mobile friendly, 3 out of 4 consumers, they say they lose trust in brands and potential businesses they want to do business with because of something as simple as inaccuracy and bad information in local business listings, whether it's a bad website URL or bad phone number or what have you. 3 out of 4 consumers say they lose trust in brands because of little things like this that are easy to correct. Your online reputation, it also matters. And again, a common mistake is, and I hope this theme is coming through, is to think that a beautiful web presence stops at the website itself. And that's absolutely not true. It's just as important to support that website with the glowing reviews of your patients. Even if the website tells a very compelling story to your visitors, it's still a story that you're telling. And most consumers are going to try to validate that information with reviews and testimonials from your patients. And there are a couple of stats here that really illustrate that. The first one is 4 out of 5 consumers say that they not only trust reviews, but they actually rely on them when they're choosing a service provider. So they're really influential in their research process for most consumers. Well, how influential? 88% of consumers are trusting those reviews as much as personal recommendations from friends and family. Think about that for a second. Friends and family can give recommendations, but most people are trusting online reviews as much as those recommendations from people, those reviews from people they've never even met. So never underestimate the power of that published review content and how much it can influence your potential patient's decisions. So let's tie that back into the pyramid. After reading a review, the most common next step for a consumer is going to visit that business's website. Remember how we said the website is the foundation of everything. Well, there it is on the screen right there. Reviews are leading to website visits, and that's where you'll hopefully convert them into booking appointment booking an appointment or giving you a call and, somehow converting and requesting more information. And this is something that I too commonly see as an afterthought or a nice to have. But the truth is, in 2021, online reviews have just become so powerful in consumers' buying decisions that you can't ignore them. And you can't even sit back and let reviews come in from your patients organically. You've got to force the issue and put a strategy in place to go get those reviews. Or, if you're lacking reviews today, that's okay. There's no better time to start collecting them than right now. And there are some tools that can make that process extremely easy for you, easy for your staff, and easy for your patients, and make it really convenient and seamless across the board. All right. Also, beyond the website, we're going to think about social media a bit. And the reason this is interesting is that recent trends are suggesting that social media is emerging as a primary search tool for consumers. And yes, Google still dominates online search, but the average user is spending over 2 hours a day on social networks. So it's an important channel to consider for making first impressions and driving high converting traffic to your website. A thriving social media presence, it engages both current and potential patients, and where you can highlight promotions or special pricing on additional services. You can share before and after stories and photos. You can showcase staff members and events, in the practice. But as social media continues to grow as an influential research tool for potential patients, just like your website, your presence should make a similar strong and welcoming first impression to represent your practice. So a couple of questions to ask yourself on your social presence. One is, how are you managing this piece today? Do you have someone who, a single owner within the practice who owns this? Is it kind of done by committee? How are you managing your presence today? Do you have the time to cover the amount of activity to, have a real thriving, active presence? Are you constantly in need of ideas for content and having to rack your brain and think of things to be able to post here? And again, just like with reviews and local listings as well, there are tools that can assist you here. But really important to, thinking beyond the website and how you can drive that traffic there and maximize, what you've got with that website as the foundational layer. So I want to ask a poll question related to that, and would love you guys to respond. Thinking about those beyond website tactics, which of these do you feel like you could use improvement in today? We talked about the website and, how effective you think that is, but, which of these here do you feel like you could really use improvement in today? And I can already see we're getting some of all three here. Give you guys just another moment or two to vote. All right, I'll close the poll. Hopefully you can see the results here. So, where could you use improvement today? I mean, it looks like there's a lot of opportunity to go drive more, use these tactics to go enhance this website and help that, beautiful website get better results. A little less than half of you guys said that, you can do better at attracting the right traffic through local search and what we talked about there. And then, more than half said both online reputation reviews and social media are spots for improvement. One of the things that with that reviews spot that I always think about is like I mentioned, your website, you write that content and everyone knows you write that content, but reviews, that's straight from the horse's mouth, so to speak. Those are patients saying, sharing their experience. And And we saw they can be really influential and really high trust, especially considering the people reading them have never met the people who wrote them. It's crazy how much they're trusted, but it just goes to show the value of that tactic. All right, so we're sort of at the wrap-up moment here, and I just want to reiterate, there's a wide variety of reasons that beautiful websites can generate ugly results, and whether it's a lack of proper planning, a poor on-screen experience, there's under the hood adjustments or opportunities to drive results beyond the website itself. A thorough evaluation and just kind of going back and thinking through each of these areas can uncover ideas to help your website and your practice reach its marketing and revenue goals. And that's the presentation today. I'll come back to this verification code in just a moment, but one thing I wanted to mention real quick is with Advice Media, providing guidance and advice on these marketing strategies. It's what we do. We love to talk about it. I know we covered a lot of ground really quickly today, so if you want to dive into any of these elements a little further, we'd love to set up a time to discuss it with you. And a couple of ways you can request that conversation. One is you can go to advicemedia.com/contact-us. You can do it there, or you can just email me directly, justin.everett@advicemedia.com. And there's actually a third way. When you exit the webinar here, it'll just simply prompt you, like, would you like to have a follow-up conversation on any of these elements, and just think a little more about how you can drive those through your practice. So with that, what I want to do is make sure you guys have your code for the session here. So I'm going to put that up on the screen. And that is a 0 and not an O. 0WCS5. So I will leave that on the screen here. And with that, that concludes the webinar today. I hope you took away some good ideas and some good nuggets. And again, would love to have you schedule that follow-up conversation or just share any feedback you have from me. And I'll leave this on the screen, but this concludes the webinar. Thank you.